What's up, my brother? There was a time when EX Onigashima Zoro was the scariest unit in One Piece Bounty Rush. Everyone feared his damage, that insane trait where he could change colors from red to blue or green. He was unstoppable, but just like every king, he fell. Today, we're talking about the rise and fall of EX Onigashima Zoro, one of the most hype and feared characters in OPBR history. So, enough yapping and let's start Zoroing. When his banner dropped, everyone was excited. But the time I got back into OPBR was the time Gear 5 was released, and his banner was up. Even though I didn't experience his release day chaos, I already knew he would be good. So I went for him, and when I finally maxed him out, my brother, I got addicted. His skill 1 dealt massive damage, and he became temporarily invincible, which was super helpful at that time. You could deal big damage and dodge attacks at the same time. It made him feel untouchable at some point. And his perfect dodge trait, oh my brother, I love it now. When you pull off a perfect dodge, Zoro triggers a long-range area attack that deals fixed damage. 10% of the enemy's max HP. Imagine if you were really good at dodging, every perfect dodge also punishes your enemy. That's insane. EX Zoro was a monster back then. If you knew how to use him properly, he could counter almost anyone. With the right medals, support tags, and stats, he was broken. A fun, skill-based, but powerful unit. Not just strong, it was satisfying to play. During his prime, Zoro dominated the league. Players would give him 1k stats each, making those Zoros insanely tanky while still dishing out crazy damage, which is very good. At that time, Onigashima Zoro wasn't just a good option, he was a must-have in your team. But what made him special was that he wasn't a brain-dead unit. You needed skill and good timing to maximize his potential, and that made using him rewarding. Players loved him because, let's be honest, he was one of the coolest looking characters out there. That skill 2 animation made you feel like you were Zoro himself. Every slash felt epic, and if you knew the trick, bait the enemy's dodge and then release skill 2, it was an easy clap, brother. That's also when the Red Rock medal was popping off. In my opinion, people thought it was the best medal for Zoro, and it really synergized well with his playstyle. Also, his trait though. The Zoan tag was also one of the best tags to use on him at that time. And here's the fun part. When Gear 5 Luffy dropped, guess who the counter was? Yeah, EX Zoro, or EX Onigashima Zoro. When you saw a Gear 5 Luffy, you knew it was about to be an easy clap. Zoro was the real menace of that meta. It's not Gear 5, but don't get me wrong, Gear 5 was a brain-dead unit, but Zoro was the counter at that time. Then things started to change. When Yama Ace dropped, I thought it might be tough for Zoro, but I was still clapping easy, like he's nothing. But then came EX Whitebeard, and that's when things went downhill. Zoro's biggest weakness is status effect. Once you get tremored, you can't do anything. And it's not just tremor. When Snake dropped, it was a nightmare. Even though Zoro had 70% petrify or entrance reduction, it still wasn't enough. What do I mean by that though? If you try to counter it using 70% entrance reduction, using those stats, like just to survive S-Snake, it was tough though. It was tough back then. Yeah, you could counter, sure, but you would lose stats, okay? And that really hurt his performance. Zoro relies heavily on stats and defense, but newer EX unit started to ignore defense, which completely wrecked EX Zoro. S-Snake and EX Whitebeard were already bad news, but then they drop L Shanks, I was like, my brother, what are you doing to my Zoro? But the way I actually tried to grind with Zoro, I wanted to reach top 1 Zoro, but I ended up at top 2 because I was going against auto clickers at that time. Yeah, painful days, brother, painful days. Now Zoro's abilities just feels outdated at some point. Yes, he can still clap Kizaru, but it's not easy. You're not fighting just one EX. Garb, Lucci, Kuzan, and even EX Sabo can all give Zoro a hard time at that time. Even some Bountifest units outperform him. That's true though. And honestly, that's sad to see for a unit that was once the king, but now even the Bountifest unit are buried. So, is Zoro bad right now? I'd say he's still usable, but you have to understand his limits. If you try to counter status effects like Claude, Freeze, or Petrify, you will lose a lot of stats. At best, you will end up with only 54% worth of stats, depending on your build, attack, defense, or HP. Losing stats in this meta is a big no-no in my opinion. Yes, you can still clap some players, but it's definitely harder now. Will he ever come back? Well, maybe. If they give him 80% status reduction like some of the new EX, he'd be a threat again in my opinion. But if they added a shield trait like Garp's, Zoro could be back to destroy everyone, you know. Also, imagine if Zoro could change not only between red, blue, and green, but also to a light or dark element. That would make him busted. Even if he could switch between just dark and light along with his usual color changes, he'd become a complete monster again. Because when you compare him to the newer EX attackers, you can clearly see Zoro's traits are outdated 100%. He deserves a buff for sure. Zoro's time in the spotlight may be over, but his legacy as one of the most dominant EX attackers in OPBR will never fade. What do you guys think? Does Zoro still deserves a spot in the meta, or is it finally time for him to rest? Let me know down below, my brother. So that's it for this video. You know the drill. Stay salty, stay awesome, and salty rock. Now signing off.